Loris Baz just at the back of that group there with Scott Redding and Jonathan Rea directly in front of him. Great reference points, the both of them. Baz back from an appearance in the German Championship during the summer break just to keep up his race fitness, and lining up in his first home round since 2020, of course, because he raced out in the US last year. This is Toprak Razgatlioglu just moving out of the way just to give himself a little bit of clean air. A few riders up and running in the first sector now, including Michael Ruben Rinaldi and Xavi Vierke on what will be the second stints now of this Superpole session, with 2.5 minutes remaining on the clock. Rinaldi up after the first sector. He's dropped a little bit of ground in sector 2, but the crucial man is Alvaro Bautista, who's lost 1/4 of a second in the first half of the lap, so doesn't look like improving on his first lap out in his second stint.
Yeah, might still have some ground for improvement because he is 0.6 of a second off overall on the third sector. He's found a little bit of time compared to his fastest time of all. But for Rinaldi, he's 1/10 of a second faster than his teammate at the same point.
Alvaro Bautista, 14th on the grid in his last Superpole here with Ducati. That was his worst of 2019. Hasn't managed better than 13th in the last 2 years at this venue with Honda either. This hasn't been the best of venues for him. He sits in 5th position at the moment. Nay, he goes up into 4th ahead of Scott Redding, only to be then deposed back down to P5 by Michael Ruben Rinaldi. So I said that Rinaldi only needed to make a couple of 1/10 of a second to make a leap. He's done that quite nicely. Up to P4 for Rinaldi. Your revised order at the start of this second stint. Razgatlioglu leads it by 2/10 of a second. 1 minute 36.354 is the time to beat. Ahead of Alex Lowe's, Jonathan Rea, second row of the grid for the two Ducatis, Michael Ruben Rinaldi and Alvaro Bautista, as well as Scott Redding. But the timing towers are now lighting up after the first sector of this latest lap.
Yeah, what bodes really well for Rinaldi is sector 1 and sector 4 fastest of all, so he's really strong in those parts of the lap. But Ducati giving up ground in the middle of the lap, and certainly they'll need to make some sort of progress with that. You can see Philip Ertl, though, on his Ducati, able to get up into the top 5 on the number 5.
Hasn't qualified inside the top 10 in Superpole sessions just yet. 16th place was his effort last time out in Moss. Suffered, of course, a broken right collarbone back in Estoril, and he's been working his way back to full fitness since then. Every chance that he's going to get to pose backwards, though. There are riders behind him on improved laps here. Alvaro Bautista going for a second, and he is improving at the halfway stage. Scott Redding is up after 3 completed sectors. Jonathan Rea up by 2/10 of a second after 3 completed sectors here, and he may well even get another lap because he's making his way through past the Chateau d'Eau, through the Lycée complex, out of the final chicane. Jonathan Rea, 1 minute 36.354 to beat. He's done it. 1:36.124 for provisional pole for Jonathan Rea, and shadowing him across the line, Scott Redding has moved up onto the front row of the grid as well. Bautista dropped briefly down onto row number 3, but he's recovered to P4 with a 1 minute 36.416. There's just 3/10 of a second between your top 4. Toprak Razgatlioglu with the first lap of his second stint crosses the line with a 1 minute 36.240. That's going to move him up into 3rd place, but 1/10 of a second down on Rea, and just a fraction behind Scott Redding. He will get in one more lap, and this is make or break now as far as the pole position is concerned. Toprak, the leader of the Tissot Superpole Award in 2022, and of course the pole sitter in Aragon and Assen at the start of the year, currently in 3rd place. This is Alex Lowe's, currently 5th. This is going to be his final lap, an opportunity to get up onto the front row of the grid, but he fails in that bid. He does set a new personal best, but he remains in P5. Makes it a little bit more difficult for the riders behind him to try and depose him off row 2. Garrett Gerloff improving with his latest effort. We'll see what he can do. He's still got 3 sectors to come. We ride on board with Toprak Razgatlioglu, bidding to add a 3rd pole position of this 2022 campaign, looking set to maintain that run of consecutive front rows through 2022 thus far.